Time for another drop-in. Okay, but this one is totally different from your character drop-ins. These are your logic drop-ins, and very related to the logic drop-ins, your relationship timelines, which are actually kind of a relationship drop-in. Drop-ins are when you have something happen at the end of the story, where when it occurs, your reader goes, oh, it totally makes sense. All of these little clues that were dropped in along the way now line up. Think The Sixth Sense. At the end of the story, he sees dead people, and all of a sudden, he is a dead person. It makes sense. He's always wearing the same coat. His wife never touched him. People didn't react to him. He only ever talks to the boy, the breath that's always showing in the room with him. For the three of you in the world who haven't seen the end of that movie, I apologize for the spoiler. But that is a perfect example of a logic drop-in. So how does that work in your story? Let's say, for instance, you have somebody at the beginning of your story who wants to go to New York to be an actress. The famous dream of so many young girls in our world. This person, she works in her own school. She choreographs the shows. She has fun with the other students, teaching them all of the steps to the show. So she goes off to New York. And also, like so many young girls in our country, when she gets there, she becomes a waitress. A server, for those of you speaking the 21st century language. While she is serving in her job, she's even made a trainer, so she gets to work with other people and help them out to learn the ropes in the restaurant. But before long, she's feeling really bored and she decides, hey, I'm gonna go plug back into my purpose in the world. And I was really passionate about theater when I was younger because I thought it really made a difference in the world. I want to plug back in by joining the Peace Corps. She's gonna go off and serve the world. And in that Peace Corps, she learns the ropes really well. She helps teach people a different language so that others can adjust to that life and to the world that they're serving and to the country that they're serving. Then after she's finished her stint in the Peace Corps, she's feeling homesick and she makes her way home, where she becomes a teacher. Now, these events may seem really disconnected, but your reader sees that in the beginning, it wasn't acting, it was teaching her fellow students. When she was a server in New York, she was teaching her fellow servers. When she was in the Peace Corps, she was teaching those people she served alongside to learn a language. So all of a sudden, logic drop-in, when you get to the end, you're realizing that this character was really a teacher all along. That is a perfect logic drop-in. It's when it all comes together and it makes sense because you've dropped in clues along the way in your story. So as you're looking at the conclusion of your story, and I realize that you haven't bulked it out yet and developed it to huge completion at this point, you do still have something that you have for your final goal. Make sure that you have those logical pieces, those clues to the puzzle, dropped in throughout your story. Now, relationship timeline, that is basically doing the exact same thing, except instead of between your character and a goal or a mission or a role, it's actually between your character and another person. The most common way that you see a relationship timeline is when you have people who are enemies who grow closer together. So in the beginning, they are enemies, but then maybe they are fighting a common enemy, even though they're doing it in very different ways. And then maybe you discover that they both have a similar purpose. Why are you fighting him? Oh, that's why you're fighting him. Well, this is why I'm fighting him. So then in the end, you might see the inkling of a friendship. You can also have this relationship timeline between a parent and child. And as that child grows up and eventually becomes a parent, they gain this understanding of their own parent. And so a peace is made to be had, or a contentment between parent and child that didn't exist in the beginning. Those relationship timelines, it's the same as your logic drop-in. You're going to identify different puzzle pieces that make the ending come together in a sensical, logical way. And then when you're at that ending, make sure your manuscript has those puzzle pieces prior to that ending, so that when you get to the end, your reader goes, ugh, it makes sense. And hopefully, your readers are going to be seeing more of your work, and it won't just be a dead book.